Okay, today I'm going to be teaching you about the blood flow in the human heart, which is one of the most essential parts of the body. And the heart has two circuits, which are the pulmonary, which is the lungs, and the systemic, which is everywhere else. So basically, I'm going to indicate the pulmonary system with blue because it's deoxygenated blood. And then I'm going to do the systemic with red because it's oxygenated. Okay. So I'm going to begin drawing the heart. First, I'm going to start with the pulmonary trunk. Then I'm just going to sketch the lungs out. I'm going to start to draw the outline of the heart. And what I'm drawing now is what's called the right atrium. Then over here, I have the left atrium. In these four chambers that's going to happen, these two ventricles are split by a septum. Splits the two ventricles down here. So now you have the four chambers. So now I'm going to draw the veins. You have to let the blood come through here. But you keep this barrier right here because that actually goes behind the heart. While over here, the blood goes through. And up here, I'm going to start drawing the superior vena cava. I'm going to go ahead and draw the aortic arch, which comes down here. Superior comes down to the inferior. Okay, so now we basically have everything sketched out. Now I'm going to start numbering everything off. Number 1 up here and down here. This is the superior vena cava and the inferior. The blood flow comes down here and it goes up through here. The inferior, the blood actually comes from the lower abdominal area and the lower extremities, and the superior comes from the brain to basically just the upper extremities like the shoulders and the arms and everything. And then the blood, oh, I forgot to draw the valves. Kind of need those. There's actually 4 valves that I just drew. But the blood comes down through here, number 2, which is the right atrium. And there's actually some little dots right here that indicates that the blood is coming from behind the heart. And then the blood flows down through the tricuspid valve, which is also known as the right atrioventricular valve, because the tricuspid valve is actually just kind of like a nickname. Then the blood actually flows down to number 4, which is the right ventricle. The blood comes from the valve and swoops up to this valve, which is number 5, which is the pulmonary semilunar valve. And then it goes up to the pulmonary trunk, and it comes out here through the trunk. And then the blood travels right here, which is the pulmonary arteries. And then it goes to the lungs. And remember that it's like a mirrored effect. This is actually the right lung, and this is the left lung. So number 8 is the lungs, right and left. The blood travels from the arteries, swoops around the lungs like this, little arrows. Okay, and now we're actually going to switch over to the systemic system, or part of it. Oops. Number 9, the blood actually flows through here. Which these are called the pulmonary veins, because they're still in the lungs, even though they're red. They're just they have oxygen now. Flows through here, but remember this is blocked off because it's going behind the heart. It's not going into the right atrium. Like over here, this actually flows through to the left atrium, which is number 10. And over here, we once again have these little dots showing that the blood is coming from behind the heart. And then the blood travels to number 11, which is the bicuspid or mitral valve. But once again, that's like a nickname, so it's the left atrioventricular valve. Then it travels to number 12, which is right here, which is the left ventricle. And the blood, like in the right ventricle, it comes from the valve and swoops around up into another valve, which is number 13, which is the aortic semilunar valve. Then it travels up to the arch, which is number 14, which is the ascending aorta. Number 15 is right here, which is basically the entire arch itself. The blood flows up through here and travels down. 15 is actually just the aortic arch. Number 16, the blood travels down, and it actually comes out through here, which is the descending aorta. And I believe that is everything.
All right, so my sister Susan just taught me the blood flow through the heart, and now I get to attempt to teach it back to you or say it back to you. All right, so you start off by the deoxygenated blood going into the inferior vena cava as well as the superior vena cava. And from here it goes down into the right atrium, and then from the right atrium it looks like the blood comes in from behind the heart, which is what these dots represent, and it goes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. And from the right ventricle it's going to go up the pulmonary semilunar valve, which is here, and from the pulmonary semilunar valve it's going to start or go up to the pulmonary trunk, and then it branches into the pulmonary arteries, which is here. It's going to kind of circulate around the lungs, which is where it gets oxygenated, kind of something like this. Not a draw. All right, so now it's oxygenated, so now it's going to come back into the pulmonary veins, which I believe are the only veins in the body that actually carry oxygenated blood. And from there, it's going to go back through here. And this is going to go behind the heart. And this is going to go behind the heart into the left atrium. And then this from the left leg is going to go straight into the left atrium. And then from there, it's going to go through the bicuspid valve down into the left ventricle. It's going to kind of come up through here from the left ventricle, and it's going to go to the aortic semilunar valve, which is here. And then from the aortic semilunar valve, it's going to go up to the ascending aorta, which is represented by number 14 here, going around to the aortic arch. And from the aortic arch, it's going to go into the descending aorta, which goes all the way down, and then down, and it kind of circulates through the rest of your body. All right, well,